I'm 104 years old, and I'm watching your generation kill yourselves. Not quickly, slowly, through despair. Two economists, Ann Case and Angus Deaton, coined a term in 2015, deaths of despair. Suicides, drug overdoses, alcoholism, liver disease, deaths caused not by poverty, but by hopelessness. Since 1990, these deaths increased by 400%. 400. America is the only developed country where life expectancy is falling, not rising, falling. Why? Because people lost three things: purpose, community, and the ability to handle difficulty. I survived things that should have killed me. The Great Depression, World War II, 60 years of hard labor, burying my wife 3 months ago. Your generation is dying from comfort, from having everything and meaning nothing. There are 7 things my generation could do that yours can't anymore. And those 7 things, they're what kept us alive. Not just physically, mentally, spiritually. This isn't judgment. It's observation. I lived a century. I watched what changed. And what you lost, you need back. Let me show you. Number 1. Eating alone without posting about your loneliness. You feel lonely. You take a picture of your meal. You post it. Eating alone again. Sad face emoji. 300 people like it. They comment, "Me too," sending hugs. You're not alone. And you feel what? Validated? Less lonely? No. You feel worse. Because you just turned your loneliness into a performance, into content for an audience that doesn't actually care. The Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy, declared loneliness a public health epidemic in 2023. He said loneliness is as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. A Harvard study found that Americans have half the close friends they had in 1990. Half. I eat alone every day. 3 months now, since my wife died. The chair across from me is empty. The table is quiet. I don't post about it. I don't take pictures. I don't ask for likes. Because loneliness isn't content. It's reality. And reality doesn't need an audience. It needs to be felt, processed, carried. When you turn pain into content, you don't heal it. You feed it. You perform it. And performed pain doesn't go away. It grows. Your generation turned suffering into social currency. You collect sympathy like coins. And then you wonder why your depression keeps growing. Because you're not processing grief. You're posting it. Learn to sit with discomfort without asking for validation. Feel your loneliness. Don't perform it. Number 2. Going to a funeral without needing therapy afterward. You go to a funeral. First time. You see a body in a casket. You leave shaken. You call your therapist. I need to process this trauma. Trauma? From seeing death? 58% of Gen Z has never been to a funeral. And when you go, you need professional help to process it. In World War II, 405,399 Americans died. 400,000 funerals in 4 years. Every family knew someone who didn't come back. My family buried my cousin in 1943. He was 19. I was 22. A year later, we buried my neighbor's son. Then Frank's brother. Then Pepe, my friend from basic training. We went to funerals. We saw bodies. We cried. We buried boys in the ground. And then we went home. We ate dinner. We went back to work. No therapy. No trauma counseling. No processing sessions. Just life. Continuing. Ernest Becker won the Pulitzer Prize in 1973 for a book called The Denial of Death. He said the more you deny death, the more terrified of it you become. You avoid funerals to protect yourself from anxiety. But avoidance doesn't reduce anxiety. It creates it. Death is not trauma. Death is life. It's the only certainty. Everyone you love will die, including you. The sooner you accept that, the freer you become. Face it. Go to funerals. See the body. Feel the loss. Cry. And then keep living, because that's what the dead would want. Not your avoidance. Your life. Number 3. Working 12 hours without calling it burnout. You work 40 hours a week. Office job. Air conditioning. Lunch break. You get to Friday and you're exhausted. You post, "Burnout is real. I can't do this anymore." Burnout. From 40 hours. In a chair. With weekends off. Paid vacation. Health insurance. In 1950, 97% of men aged 25 to 54 worked. Today, 89%. And falling. Not because there's no work, because work became optional. A burden. Something to optimize away. I worked 60 hours a week for 40 years. First in a factory. Steel. Noise. Heat. Then as a carpenter. My hands bled. My back hurt. I came home so tired I could barely stand. You know how many times I called it burnout? 0. Because it wasn't burnout. It was work. That's what work feels like. Hard. Tiring. Painful sometimes. And I did it anyway. Because that's what men did. You worked. You provided. You endured. Studs Terkel wrote a book in 1974 called Working. He interviewed hundreds of Americans about their jobs. And he found this. Work is about meaning, not just survival. It's about identity, dignity, purpose. When you avoid hard work, you don't just lose income. You lose yourself. Deaths of despair. Those deaths Ann Case and Angus Deaton studied are highest among men who stopped working. Not because they're poor, because they lost purpose. Work gave them structure, a reason to get up, a sense of contribution. Your generation wants comfort, flexibility, work-life balance, and you're dying inside. Because comfort doesn't create meaning. Difficulty does. Pushing through when you're tired. Finishing when you want to quit. Building something with your hands. That's what gives life weight. Stop renaming exhaustion as pathology. You're not burned out. You're just tired. Rest on Sunday. Get back to work on Monday. That's life. Number 4, staying married when it gets difficult. You've been dating 3 years. She wants to get married. You say, "I'm still not sure if she's the right person." 3 years. And you still don't know. Or you got married. 2 years in, you have a big fight. You think, "Did I marry the wrong person?" And you start looking for the exit. In 1960, 84% of Americans were married by age 30. Today, 45%. And here's what nobody tells you. Deaths of despair are 3 times higher among unmarried people. 3 times. Marriage isn't just romantic. It's survival. It's the difference between facing life alone and facing it with someone. I got married at 51. Late. I was set in my ways. Stubborn. The first year, we fought every week. I thought, this was a mistake. Year 5, she got cancer. I thought I was going to lose her. We survived. Year 30, money was tight. We fought about it. We stayed. 49 years total. Not because it was easy, because I promised. Wendell Berry, a farmer and writer, said this. Love is not a feeling. It's a practice. You practice commitment. You practice sacrifice. You practice showing up even when you don't feel like it. Marriage isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about choosing one person and building a life. Brick by brick. Year by year. Through fights and sickness and money problems and all of it. Your generation mistakes difficulty for incompatibility. But every marriage is difficult. Every single one. Even the good ones. Especially the good ones. The question isn't, is this hard? The question is, am I willing to stay and build anyway? If you leave when it gets hard, you'll leave every marriage because they all get hard. Find someone. Commit. Stay. Even when you want to run. That's how you build something that lasts. Number 5. Having 4 real friends instead of 4,000 followers. You have 4,137 followers on Instagram. You post a picture. 600 likes, comments, hearts, and then you have a bad week. Really bad. You need to talk to someone. You pick up your phone, and you realize, of those 4,000 people, you can't call a single one at 2 a.m. You have followers. You don't have friends. Robert Putnam wrote a book in 2000 called Bowling Alone. He spent years documenting the collapse of American community. He found that since 1970, participation in civic life dropped by 50%. Clubs, churches, bowling leagues, Rotary, unions, gone. And with them, friendship. In 1990, Americans had an average of 3 close friends. Today, one friend? When I was 30, I had 4 close friends. Frank, my neighbor. We sat on the porch every evening, talked about nothing. Tony, from work. If I needed money, he'd give it without asking questions. Both of them are dead now. But they were real. They showed up. Not online, in person. Real friendship costs something. Time, inconvenience, vulnerability. You have to show up when it's not convenient. Sit with someone when they're boring. Help when you'd rather not. Digital friendship costs nothing. A like, a comment, a heart emoji, and it gives nothing back. When you're in the hospital, followers don't visit. When you're broke, followers don't lend you money. When your mom dies, followers don't sit with you in silence. Real people do. Stop collecting followers. Start building friendships. Call one person, not text. Call. Show up at their house unannounced like people used to. Sit with them. Be bored together. That's how friendship is built. Slowly. In person. With presence. Number 6. Sitting with boredom without reaching for a screen. You're waiting. Doctor's office. Bus stop. Line at the grocery store. 5 seconds pass. Your hand goes to your phone. Instagram. TikTok. Email. Anything. Because you can't sit with your own thoughts for 5 minutes. Blaise Pascal, a French mathematician and philosopher, wrote something in the 1600s. He said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." 1600s. And he already saw it. You don't have that ability anymore. You can't be alone with yourself. Neuroscience research now shows that your brain needs what scientists call the default mode network. It's when your brain is not focused on a task, when it wanders, processes memories, connects ideas, creates. But you never let your brain enter that mode. You fill every gap with stimulation. 7 hours a day on screens. Podcasts while you walk. Music while you cook. TV while you eat. Your brain is never quiet, never resting, never processing. And then you wonder why you feel scattered, anxious, unable to think clearly, because you never gave your mind space to work. When I was 30, I sat on my porch for 2 hours some evenings. Just sat, watched the street, thought about things, sometimes about nothing. No phone, no TV, no podcast, just me and my thoughts. And I was fine, better than fine. That's when I figured things out. Processed the day, made decisions. Your generation can't do that. You've outsourced your thinking to algorithms. Stop filling every second. Turn off your phone for 30 minutes. Sit. Be bored. Let your mind wander. That's not wasted time. That's when your brain does its most important work. Number 7. And this is the most important. Dying knowing you lived for something bigger than your ego. You're 25, 30, 35 years old. Someone asks, "What are you living for?" You say, "To be happy, to follow my dreams, to find myself, to live my truth." It's all about you, your fulfillment, your happiness, your journey, your self-actualization. And when you die, what's left? An Instagram account nobody will access. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz, the Nazi concentration camp. He watched thousands die. And he noticed something. The people who survived weren't the strongest. They were the ones who had a reason to survive. A why. He wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning. He said, man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in life. Not pleasure, not comfort. Meaning. McKinsey published research showing that 56% of Gen Z feels their life has no purpose. More than half of an entire generation waking up not knowing why they exist. And here's the connection to deaths of despair. Ann Case and Angus Deaton found that communities with strong religious participation have 70% fewer deaths of despair. 70%. Not because God protects them from hardship, because faith gives people purpose beyond themselves. Something transcendent to live for. I lived for God. For my country when it needed me. For my wife. For my community. For something bigger than me. None of that was about my happiness, my self-fulfillment, my journey. It was about service, sacrifice, duty, and it gave my life weight, meaning, a reason to keep going even when everything hurt. You live for yourself, your comfort, your pleasure, your career, your brand, and yourself is not enough. It never was. It never will be, because the self is a black hole. No matter how much you pour into it, it never fills. You keep searching for meaning inside yourself. But meaning isn't inside. It's outside. In the people you serve, the community you build, the God you worship, the cause you give your life to. Stop living for yourself. Find something bigger. Marry someone and die to yourself for 50 years. Have kids and sacrifice everything for them. Serve your community. Go to church. Build something that will outlast your Instagram account. Because when you die, and you will, nobody's going to remember your follower count. They'll remember if you were there, if you loved them, if you served something bigger than yourself. Those are the 7 things. Let me say them again. 1. Feel pain without performing it for an audience. 2. Face death without needing therapy to process normal grief. 3. Work hard without renaming exhaustion as trauma. 4. Stay committed when it gets difficult. 5. Build real friendships instead of collecting digital followers. 6. Sit with boredom without filling every second with stimulation. 7. Live for something bigger than your ego. This is not genetic weakness. It's cultural. Nobody taught you. Nobody modeled it. Nobody demanded it. You were raised in comfort, protected from difficulty, praised for participation. And now when life gets hard, and it always gets hard, you break. But here's what Ann Case and Angus Deaton didn't say in their research, and what I know from living 104 years. This can be reversed, rebuilt, relearned. I survived the Great Depression when my family had nothing. I survived World War II when half my friends died. I survived 60 years of hard labor. I survived losing everyone I ever loved. Not because I was special, because I had 3 things: purpose, community, and the ability to endure difficulty. Those 3 things kept my generation alive, and your generation is dying without them. But you can rebuild them. Not instantly. Not easily. But you can. Start small. Sit with your pain for 5 minutes without posting. Go to a funeral. Actually go. Feel it. Work hard one day without complaining. Stay in a difficult conversation instead of leaving. Call one real friend. Turn off your phone for 30 minutes and sit in silence. Serve someone without expecting recognition. Do one of these things today, then another tomorrow, and another the day after. Build the muscles you've lost. Purpose, community, endurance. Those muscles atrophy when not used, but they can grow back. Deaths of despair are preventable, not with medication, not with therapy alone, with meaning, with community, with the ability to suffer well. I showed you what kept us alive for 104 years. Now it's your choice. Despair or purpose. Isolation or community. Comfort or meaning. Choose fast, because the clock is running. For me and for you.